looking for escapism, I just want to escape.
Welcome back to my disembodied voice. Netflix are about to launch the long-awaited Luther movie. It's been years of scheduling, writing, rewriting and 5 series of the television programme, but now we are finally here. I find myself disgracefully ambivalent about it. Luther launched in 2010 on BBC One and, due to working shifts and commuting 3 hours a day and back to a hospital, I missed it completely. However, I did catch up in time for the second series. Everyone I knew kept saying, you have to see it. So, as me and the future Mrs. Crow had some time to kill during a week off, we binged watched Series 1 in preparation of the new Series 2. I have to say I'm not a big lover of TV detectives. Living at home in a single TV house for so many years and being forced to watch things like Morse and A Touch of Frost, both equally commendable shows but not my cup of tea, I had little interest in watching it. Add to that, being disappointed by things like Waking the Dead and Silent Witness, I was all out of love for TV killers and mysteries. I loved Wire in the Blood, although Robson Green's dysfunctional and delicate performance grated at times, and this was the reason I kind of rolled past Luther when it first aired. However, I'm an idiot, and I'm so glad I gave it a go. Idris Elba, who played Stringer Bell on The Wire, plays the titular detective. He's hulking, brutal, intelligent, paradoxically gentle, and he just wants to do the best he can for the world, but, much like he tells the actress who played Jill Valentine in the Resident Evil movies, in Series 3, he just makes things worse, no matter how much she turns into that skid to control things. Everything just gets worse. The difference with Luther, compared to other TV series, is that we know who the killer is in the opening scenes. This isn't a whodunit or disappointing reveal of a killer you kind of shrug at, as we see the deeds being done and get a rough idea of the evil we are dealing with right from the opening scene. And boy, do we see some graphic novel, Sin City and far-fetched fantasy violence and villains. Not all are far-fetched. Rob Jarvis's Graham in Series 1, Episode 4 is a sexually dysfunctional and pathetically emasculated killer of women who, after posing as a taxi driver, strangles his victims and then has a quick sniff of their handbags to top it all off. Episode 4 in Series 1 is starkly downbeat and, contrasted to Episode 2 of the same series where we have a sniper slaughtering policemen left, right and centre, it's minimalistic and shows the tragedy of a couple who have come to hate each other, living on the breadline and harbouring secrets of affairs to murder whilst their life ticks by over the council flat that they rot in. It was the magic of Series 1, how we go from a blood-drinking narcissist in Episode 3 to a diamond heist gone wrong in Episode 5. And the range of storylines was thrilling. Luther, though, had a big trick up its sleeve which really propelled it to something original and wasn't just about the beautiful Idris. I'm talking about Ruth Wilson's sociopathic killer, Alice Morgan. We meet Alice in Episode 1 and, far from trying to guess if she killed her parents, Luther knows she's killed them both, but is frustrated and charmed by a level of intelligence and cunning which draws him into a symbiotic relationship of intellectual chess as he accepts he will never prove Alice is guilty, but is clearly so infatuated with her that he cannot let go of a truly toxic and heartless killer. Alice, in turn, after loving the attention of getting one over on the police, soon reciprocates the affection and a bizarre friendship blossoms. Alice helps Luther, Luther finds solace in Alice, and, when Henry Madsen wakes up, the killer the show started with and the man who Luther let fall to his not quite successful death, Alice saves Luther's career by slaughtering Henry in the hospital and thus saving him testifying against the man who let him fall. This was the uniqueness of the show, a homicidal narcissist screaming down the phone that she killed Henry for their friendship while Luther screams back at her, both of them deeply flawed and toxically entangled people, but inseparable despite the polarising sides of the law they sat on. The show had balls, blood and horror in spades and tackled love and loss as Luther's wife leaves him. They dance on and off via secret meetups and explosive rants before she is taken from him by his best friend Ian Reid, the surprise final antagonist of the series. Series 2 carried on with the macabre, although in only 4 episodes compared to Series 1's total of 6, but Alice had to flee the country and so we get minimal Ruth Wilson this time, and the show misses her. However, what we lose in Alice, we make up for in spectacular killers as a masked Mr. Punch slaughters women, tortures Luther's friends and nearly melts a classroom of children, and then 2 psychotic identical twins play a real-life RPG with acid-filled water pistols, knives, and even bombs. The second series has an arc of a criminal family blackmailing Luther and Luther caring for a young girl called Jenny Jones, the waif used as leverage by the syndicate. It's from here on in that his career and life spiral truly out of control as he breaks the law to spare both his life and the girl he is protecting. Rose Teller, the Mockney boss with the awful Cockney "fur rugs and apples and pears, guv'nor" accent is gone, and the eerily menacing Schenk takes charge of the series as it stays true to its roots and backs Luther into more and more tight scenarios until a twist of genius saves his bacon. Series 3 deals with mistakes catching up to Luther, and all of this while trying to catch a truly horrendous protege of a former killer, the boy who witnessed his mother dying, now all grown up and twisted and enthralled to the man who killed her, and then a vigilante who murders the most reprehensible people in London. Alice returns to save Luther again, and after the internal investigation team sent out to capture Luther and the mad vigilante corner both Luther, Mary and Alice, all threads are resolved in a bloody and dramatic fashion. At the end of the series, Luther throws his coat into the Thames and finally gets together with Alice, and they leave to a rising tune, and the series, to all intents and purposes, seemed to have ended. Then came Series 4 and, for some reason, Neil Cross decides to inject some bangers and mash gangsters into the mix and then show us the corpse of Alice in a river. Well, it looks like her. You never truly know with Alice. Luther has a hit put out on him after enraging the mob, and the 2 episodes are lost to this sudden change from Sin City to Guy Ritchie. Yes, there's a cannibal, and it's all suitably nasty, but with Alice seemingly dead from the start, the show never recovers and a shadow hangs over the previously unique series. In Series 5, we continue this gangster fetish, and it's all about the mob again as Alice returns having stolen from them. Luther's best friend Benny is killed, and Luther and Alice bicker right to the end. It turns out, at the start of Season 4, they were planning to run away together, but Alice goes missing and is then presumed dead. In Series 5, we see their relationship was failing anyway, and he couldn't stop being a cop, and she couldn't stop being a narcissist. Therefore, their relationship was never going to work, and, by the end, Alice dies for real, and Luther is arrested under suspicion of murder. Luther was always about love and consequence. Luther loved Zoe, but the consequence of his job killed her. Luther loved Alice, but the consequence of moving from friendship to romance meant they were doomed. Luther was far too clever to be a policeman and, only ever one faint line away from becoming the monster he chased, the drawer was watching how bad things would get and how far he would go to bring someone down. Be it punching a suspect in the face to get their DNA, risking his colleague's life while playing chicken with the maniac who was torturing him, or playing Russian roulette with a PTSD-stricken army vet, Luther was as insane as he was clever, and, when we bring silly gangsters into the serial killer world, the show just lost its way. Alice worked as a dark angel, a watcher and confidant who should have ended up with Luther, but once you do this in Season 3 and then decide to keep making the show, the only possible way is to burn towards destruction as Luther breaks everything he touches. At least when a show finishes and we can make the picture in our heads, we decide on the ending, we decide how it works, and if they get that happy sunset ending. The gangsters feel out of place in the world of comic book serial killers, and when Series 5 left us with just one case to solve rather than the usual 1 or 2 part episodes of previous series, too much attention was Luther and Alice dodging Cockney slags rather than the beautiful psychological thriller which came before. Alice is a gift, but the more we see her, the more she loses her impact. Ruth Wilson was hampered by filming conflicts for Series 4, but killing her off at that point, it seemed, just felt too final. And it ruined the menaces she had, even when mentioned in passing or glimpsed via a Roadrunner postcard. Meet me. Luther Series 1 to 3 is amazing television and as gritty as you like. It hasn't aged at all and takes the plays-by-his-own-rules detective to masochistically scary levels. My hopes aren't high for the movie Fallen Son, mostly because we're sending Luther to prison and, yet again, he's going to spend the movie on the run. This time from the law, not from gangsters. Adding an unnecessary element of fast-paced giddiness to the previously brilliant study of personality disorders and psychology just doesn't suit the series for me. If you haven't read the prequel to Series 1 called The Calling, do so. It's not the best book in the world, but it fills in all the gaps you need. Written by Neil Cross, creator of the series, it details Henry Madsen and his slide to the beginning of the opening scene in first series, where Luther lets him fall to his death. Luther was a fantastic study of the human mind, its psychology, and the damage mental illness and PTSD can do. It was also just riveting television with tension, drama, and existential studies on narcissism and toxic maladaptiveness caused by both depravity and dehumanisation. The City of London was the real star, a beating heart of malignant filth, and Once we stepped into the lock, stock and two smoking gavnas, the decrepit element of serial killers and snake-like narcissists got lost. The gangster years didn't move the show forward, and the Alice conundrum seemed to tie the writer up in knots more than open the door to what darkness and mystery these two could have become embroiled in. To be honest, I feel Luther needs to hang up his coat at the moment. Series 4 for me is where the show died, having been concerned with Luther's domestic life, his infatuation with a dangerous killer, and then fighting his way out of blackmail, and an internal investigation into his insalubrious methods. The ideas seem to run thin, starting from that point. Anyway, I'm going to watch Fallen Sun. Of course I am. So, that's it for today, and until next time, I'll catch you later.